We are living in a peri-tyrannical situation where there's only 2 clicks left when you are required to have digital ID to move around and have a life, and when cashless central bank digital currencies are the only way you can buy and sell. At that point, you've lost your freedom. If you follow the breadcrumbs to 2030, anyone can look up the UN 2030 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. By 2030, Britain specifically will have no commercial passenger aircraft leaving the country. You will not be able to leave. There will be no ships leaving the country. You will not own private transport. You will have a digital ID to do everything, and you will only have electronic money with which to transact. I would say at that point you are a slave, and because you can see them coming, you should say no. Say no right now. Stop. The things that are happening are really fantastic, but they go back decades. There's no question that there's been a very long run-up to the level of control that we are going to face if we allow cash to be winked out of existence.
Stop celebrating the death of the dollar. It didn't die, it just mutated. While the world was distracted by the BRICS summit and the new gold currency in Shanghai, the Federal Reserve was quietly building a trap in New York. It is called Project Agora. Most of you have never heard this name. You won't find it on the front page of the news. But as of 2026, it is the new operating system for the entire Western banking world. Launched by the Bank for International Settlements and 7 of the world's most powerful central banks, this isn't just a new coin. It is a unified ledger. What does that mean? It means your bank deposit is no longer money that you own. It is now a programmable token on a centralized network. Think about that word, programmable. It means your money now has rules. It has conditions. And if necessary, it has an off switch. The BRICS nations are backing their money with gold to give you freedom. The West is backing their money with code to give them absolute control. If the unit was the lifeboat, Project Agora is the digital cage, and the scariest part, you're already inside it. To understand the magnitude of the trap that has just been set, you have to look at what didn't make the headlines this week. While the cameras were focused on the BRICS summit, while the financial pundits were arguing about the price of gold in Shanghai, and while Twitter was debating the collapse of the bond market, a much more significant event took place behind closed doors in Basel, Switzerland. This is the headquarters of the Bank for International Settlements, the BIS. It is often called the central bank of central banks. It is the only bank in the world that is sovereign territory, immune to the laws of Switzerland, immune to the laws of the United States, and immune to any audit. And in that fortress, the architects of the Western financial system hit the execute button on a plan they have been refining for 3 years. They call it Project Agora. The name comes from the Greek word for marketplace. It sounds friendly, it sounds open, it sounds public, but the reality is the exact opposite. Project Agora is the largest, most ambitious attempt to centralize the global monetary system since the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913. And unlike the BRICS gold currency, which is an open challenge to the dollar, Project Agora is a silent coup. It is an update to the back-end code of money itself. So, who is involved? This isn't just a rogue experiment. This is the Alliance of 7. The Federal Reserve, USA, the Bank of England, UK, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of France, the Bank of Korea, the Bank of Mexico, the Swiss National Bank. Together with the private banking giants, the systemically important institutions like JP Morgan, Citi, and HSBC, they have agreed to merge their operations onto a single shared platform. This is where you need to pay close attention because the technical details are where they hide the handcuffs. For the last 50 years, the banking system has worked on a system of fragmented ledgers. If you bank with Chase, Chase keeps a record of your money. If you send money to a friend who uses Wells Fargo, Chase has to send a message to the Federal Reserve, who then settles the transaction and tells Wells Fargo to update their record. It is slow, it is clunky, it takes days, but crucially, it creates layers of separation. Your money sits in a private institution. Project Agora destroys those layers. It introduces a concept called the unified ledger. Imagine a single digital spreadsheet that contains every dollar, every euro, every yen, and every bond in the Western world. On this unified ledger, central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, live side by side with tokenized deposits. This is the critical shift. They are not asking you to switch to a CBDC. They know you hate CBDCs. They know the public doesn't trust the government with a direct digital wallet, so they pulled a bait and switch. Instead of giving you a new currency, they are simply tokenizing the money you already have. Your bank deposit, that number you see on your screen when you log into your banking app, is currently a liability of the commercial bank. It is a promise that they will pay you cash if you ask for it. Under Project Agora, that deposit is converted into a token that lives on the unified ledger controlled by the central bank. Why does this distinction matter? Because a token is not money. A token is a piece of software code that represents money. And because it is software, it can be programmed. This is the Trojan horse. The BIS is selling Project Agora to the world as a solution to speed and efficiency. They claim it will make cross-border payments instant. They say it will stop fraud. They say it will modernize the economy to compete with China's WeChat and Alipay. And to be fair, they are right. It will be faster, it will be more efficient. But efficiency is the enemy of privacy. In a fragmented system, no single entity sees the whole picture. Chase sees what you do at Chase. The Fed sees the aggregate data. In a unified ledger, the central bank has what military strategists call total battle space awareness. They can see every transaction from every bank in real time on a single screen. They can see if you're buying gold. They can see if you're sending money to a crypto exchange. They can see if you are donating to a political party they dislike. And because they control the ledger, they don't just see it. They can interact with it. This brings us to the real reason they launched Agora in 2026. It wasn't for speed. It was for survival. The Western central banks are terrified. They are watching the BRICS nations accumulate physical gold to create a currency that is trustless, meaning it relies on the value of the metal, not the government. And simultaneously, they are watching the crypto sector create stablecoins that move billions of dollars outside the banking system entirely. They are losing control of the narrative, and more importantly, they are losing control of the liquidity. If people move their savings into gold or Bitcoin, the fractional reserve banking system collapses. Project Agora is the firewall designed to stop that exit. By tokenizing all commercial bank deposits, they are effectively merging the private banking sector into the state. It is the nationalization of money disguised as a tech upgrade. When you hear them talk about seamless interoperability, what they actually mean is seamless surveillance. Think about the timing. Why now? Why 2026? Because the debt crisis is no longer theoretical. The United States is adding $1 trillion to its debt every 90 days. The interest payments alone are consuming the entire tax revenue of the country. In history, when a government goes bankrupt, it has two options. Option A, default, admit you're broke. Option B, financial repression, force the citizens to pay for it. Project Agora is the infrastructure for option B. You cannot enforce negative interest rates in a cash economy. If the bank charges you to hold your money, you will just take the cash out and put it under your mattress. But you can enforce negative interest rates in a tokenized Agora system. If you try to withdraw your tokens, where do you go? The cash is being phased out. The gold dealers are being regulated off the ledger. The crypto ramps are being blocked. You're trapped inside the unified ledger. This is why they didn't launch a consumer CBDC app that you have to download. They knew nobody would download it. Instead, they changed the plumbing underneath the floorboards. You will still use your Wells Fargo card. You will still use your Apple Pay. The interface looks the same, but the engine running it has changed from a system of private property to a system of state permission. And the most brilliant part of their plan? They have convinced the commercial banks, Jamie Dimon, Jane Fraser, the CEOs of the world, to go along with it. Why would private banks agree to hand over control to the central bank? Because Project Agora promises to save them too. Remember the banking crisis of 2023? Silicon Valley Bank collapsed in hours because people used Twitter and mobile apps to pull their money out instantly. The bank run has become digital. In the Agora system, because all deposits are tokenized on one ledger, the central bank can theoretically pause token movements across the entire sector instantly to stabilize the market. They can stop a bank run before it starts. Security for them, prison for you. This is the unseen reality of the 2026 financial landscape. While the East builds a fortress of gold to keep the West out, the West is building a digital prison to keep its own citizens in. And Project Agora is simply the name of the lock. But a lock is useless without a key. And in this new system, the key is a piece of technology that fundamentally changes the physics of commerce. It is called programmable money, and once you understand how it works, you will realize why your savings account might soon come with an expiration date. To understand the true danger of what has just been activated, you first have to appreciate the beautiful simplicity of the system we are leaving behind. For 5,000 years, money has been neutral. If you have a $20 bill in your pocket right now, pull it out and look at it. That bill does not know who you are. It does not know if you are a saint or a sinner. It does not know if you are black or white, Republican or Democrat. It does not know if you are buying milk for your baby or a banned book for your library. Crucially, that bill has no memory of where it has been, and it has no opinion on where it is going. It is an inanimate object. It is a tool. You are the master. The money is the servant. Project Agora inverts this relationship. Under this new architecture, the money becomes the master. The technical term for this is tokenized deposits, but the functional term, the one openly discussed in the hushed corridors of the Bank for International Settlements, is programmable money. This is the shift that changes human history. When your bank deposit is moved onto the unified ledger, it is wrapped in a layer of software code known as a smart contract. A smart contract is a self-executing script. It operates on simple, ruthless logic. If X happens, then do Y. In the world of cryptocurrency, people use smart contracts for trading or lending. But in the hands of a central bank, a smart contract becomes a policy enforcement tool. It turns your money into a behavior modification device. It allows the issuer to dictate not just the value of the currency, but the utility of the currency. This is the key to the lock we discussed in Chapter 1. The ledger is the prison, programmable money is the shackle. Let's look at 3 specific scenarios that are now technically possible under this new system. These are not conspiracy theories. They are the features of the software architecture being built today. Scenario 1, the carbon wallet. We all know the West is obsessed with net zero targets, but governments have a massive political problem. People do not want to stop flying, eating meat, or driving gas cars. Passing taxes to force this behavior is political suicide. Programmable money solves this without passing a single new law. Imagine your Agora tokens are coded with a specific carbon allowance. You go to the grocery store, you have plenty of money in your account, you try to buy a steak, the transaction is declined, not because you have insufficient funds, but because you have insufficient carbon credits for the month. The smart contract reads the metadata of the item, steak, très high carbon, and checks your personal allowance. If carbon, limit, then block transaction. The money itself refuses to be spent. This is the conditional payment logic that Agora is built to support. It allows the central bank to micromanage the economy at the level of the individual purchase. It bypasses the democratic process entirely. There is no vote, no debate, just code. Scenario 2, the expiration date. This is the holy grail for Keynesian economists. They hate it when you save money. They want velocity. They want you spending to boost GDP figures. In a recession, people naturally get scared and stop spending. They hoard cash. The economy stalls. Currently, the Fed prints money to encourage spending, but they can't force you to open your wallet. With programmable money, they can. Imagine the government issues a stimulus token to your Agora wallet during a crisis, but this token has a metadata tag. Expires in 30 days. If you don't spend it by Friday, the balance returns to 0. Suddenly, you're running to the store to buy things you don't need, just to save the value. This creates artificial demand. It pumps the GDP numbers, but it destroys the concept of savings and capital accumulation. You are no longer accumulating wealth for your family's future. You're simply a conduit for the state's economic energy. You are a hamster on a wheel that creates GDP, but builds no equity. Scenario 3, the geofence. We saw a clumsy preview of this in Canada during the trucker protests, and globally with the Russian sanctions. Accounts were frozen, but it required manual intervention and legal orders. Agora makes it surgical and automatic. The unified ledger allows for geofencing of funds. The central bank could program tokens to be valid only within a specific radius, or valid only at approved vendors. If you try to send money to a merchant who is flagged as high risk, politically exposed, or simply unapproved, the transaction fails at the protocol level. There's no human to call. There's no manager to appeal to. The code is law. Your money works at Walmart, but it doesn't work at the local gun store. It works for a donation to the ruling party, but it bounces when you try to support the opposition. This brings us to the inevitable casualty of Project Agora, cash. You cannot have a system of total control if there is an escape hatch. Physical cash is the antithesis of Agora. It is private. It is peer-to-peer. It cannot be turned off. As long as cash exists, people can opt out of the programmable money system. If the bank tells you you can't buy steak, you can just pull out a $50 bill and buy it from a farmer. If the bank says your money expires, you can pull it out and hold it in paper. This is why we are seeing a coordinated global war on cash right now. They aren't banning it outright, That would cause a revolution and panic. Instead, they are making it inconvenient. They are lowering the limits on cash transactions. They are removing ATMs from city centers. They are treating anyone who carries or uses large amounts of cash as a suspected criminal. The goal is to force you into the digital corral, to make the digital option the only option. Once the majority of the population is on the unified ledger, the trap snaps shut. Real-time taxation becomes possible. Instead of filing taxes once a year, the government can skim a percentage off every single transaction instantly. Split payments, automatic fines. If you get a speeding ticket, the money is deducted from your wallet before you even pull over. Due process disappears because the state already has custody of your assets. You don't own the money, you're just the authorized user of the money until the state decides otherwise. The defenders of the system, the technocrats at the BIS and the IMF, will tell you that this is safer. They will tell you that Agora prevents money laundering. They will say it stops terrorism financing. They will say it creates a more inclusive financial system. And technically they are right. It does stop those things. But it stops them by treating every single citizen as a potential criminal who must be monitored 24/7. It creates a panopticon. In the old system, privacy was the default and surveillance was the exception, with a warrant. In the Agora system, surveillance is the default and privacy is impossible. Every transaction is a data point. Your spending habits build a profile of who you are, what you believe, and how compliant you are. And remember, this data isn't just sitting in a government archive. It is on a unified ledger, shared with private banks and potentially third-party corporate partners. Insurance companies could adjust your premiums based on what food you buy. Too much sugar, premium goes up. Lenders could adjust your interest rates based on who your friends are. It is the ultimate convergence of big tech and big finance. A credit score that isn't just about your ability to pay, but your willingness to obey. This is the fundamental difference between the East and the West in 2026. The BRICS nations, with the unit, are moving toward hard money, gold, money that is heavy, physical, and requires no electricity to have value. It represents a return to the physical world, to gravity, to reality. The West is moving towards soft money, code, money that is ephemeral, digital, and exists only by the permission of the network administrator. Project Agra is not just a banking update, it is a philosophy change. It moves us from a society based on ownership to a society based on permission. You don't own the token. You have permission to use the token, provided you meet the conditions set by the issuer. This sounds dystopian. It sounds like something from a sci-fi horror movie. But the infrastructure is being laid right now. The tokenization pilots are live in New York, London, and Singapore. They are testing the pipes. And once the pipes are connected, the great fence goes up. If you have made it this far, you're probably feeling a mix of anger and anxiety. You have seen the prison being built, the unified ledger, and you have seen the handcuffs, programmable money. Naturally, your instinct right now is to run. You're thinking, okay, I get it. The system is rigged. I'll just leave. I'll take my money out of the bank and move it to Singapore or Dubai, or buy gold or buy Bitcoin. I simply won't play their game. That is a logical thought. It is a smart thought. But the architects of Project Agora are smarter. They have already anticipated your escape. In fact, stopping you from leaving is the entire reason they built this system in the first place. This brings us to the final, most terrifying, and least understood component of the Agora architecture. It isn't just a ledger. It isn't just a token. It is the capital lock. To understand why this is happening right now in 2026, you have to look at the global balance sheet with cold, hard logic. The Western financial system is mathematically insolvent. The United States is sitting on $36 trillion in debt. The interest payments alone are now higher than the entire defense budget. The United Kingdom and Japan are in even worse shape. In a normal free market, when a government cannot pay its bills, investors do what any rational person would do. They flee. They sell the bonds. They sell the currency. They move their capital to a safer jurisdiction. Historically, this is how empires end. The money leaves before the soldiers do. But Project Agora changes the physics of capital flight. It acts as a digital Berlin Wall. Under the old system, the system you're used to, if you wanted to send $10 million to a bank in Switzerland or a gold vault in Singapore, you send a wire transfer. It might take a few days. The regulators might ask some annoying questions. But generally, if it was your money, you could move it. The exit door was open. Under the unified ledger, the central bank can implement algorithmic capital controls. They don't need to pass a controversial law in Congress saying you can't move money to the BRICS nations. That would cause panic. It would be political suicide. Instead, they simply tweak the code of the token. They can introduce a friction fee, a compliance delay, or an outright protocol block. Imagine this scenario. It is late 2026. The dollar is crashing. You try to transfer your Agora tokens to a bank in a non-Agora jurisdiction, let's say Brazil, which is now the gold standard. You hit send. The smart contract initiates a digital handshake. It asks the receiving bank, "Are you on the unified ledger?" The receiving bank says, "No, we operate on the BRICS gold standard." The smart contract instantly responds, "Error 404, unverified counterparty. Transaction denied for security reasons." Your money isn't gone. It is still safe in your account. You just can't move it out. You're trapped in a burning building where the doors are locked from the outside. This creates what economists call a captive market. If you cannot sell your dollars to buy foreign assets, you are forced to keep them in U.S. Treasury bonds or U.S. stocks. This keeps the Western markets artificially propped up. It forces you to fund the very debt that is destroying your savings. It is the ultimate form of financial repression, and it is invisible to the average person because it looks like a technical error, not a government seizure. The Great Divergence. So, what does the world look like once the system is fully live? We are witnessing the Great Divergence. The global economy is splitting into two incompatible operating systems. The dream of a one-world currency is dead. We are now living in a dual processor world. Zone A, the Golden Zone, the East, and Global South. This zone is built on the unit. It is slow, it is physical, it is based on commodities. In this zone, wealth is defined by weight. How many tons of gold do you have? How many barrels of oil? How many bushels of wheat? Privacy exists here, not because the governments are benevolent, but because physical cash and gold are naturally hard to track. The risk in Zone A is volatility and geopolitical chaos, but the reward is ownership. If you hold a gold bar in Zone A, you own it. There is no counterparty. Zone B, the digital zone, the West. This zone is built on Project Agra. It is fast. It is seamless. It is hyper-efficient. In this zone, wealth is defined by compliance. What is your credit score? What is your carbon footprint? Are you a trusted citizen? There's no volatility here because the prices are managed. But there is also no ownership. You are merely a tenant of your own wealth, paying rent in the form of negative interest rates, inflation, and surveillance. The survival guide. Assets that cross the wall. This is the most critical part of this entire series. If the world is splitting and a digital wall is going up between East and West, where do you put your wealth? You cannot just keep it in the bank, and you cannot just hide it under a mattress, because cash is being phased out. You need assets that are interoperable with reality. You need assets that can survive on both sides of the fence. 1. Physical gold and silver, self-custody. This is the only universal translator. An ounce of gold is worth an ounce of gold in New York, Zone B, and in Shanghai, Zone A. It doesn't require a SWIFT code. It doesn't require a smart contract. It doesn't require electricity. If you hold physical metal, you have a passport for your wealth. You can opt out of the Agra system, and if you ever need to enter the BRICS system, your gold is welcomed instantly. Warning, paper gold, ETFs, will stay trapped in the Agra ledger. Physical gold ignores the ledger. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. 2. Productive land. They can tokenize the deed to your land, but they cannot tokenize the soil. If you own farmland, a water source, or a house in a stable area, you have a physical utility that cannot be deleted by a line of code. In a world of digital illusions, tangible survival assets become the new luxury. Food, water, and shelter are not digital. They are the ultimate hedge against a virtual prison. 3. Unhosted. Bitcoin. This is the controversial one, but we must be objective. If you hold crypto on a major exchange like Coinbase or Binance, you are inside the Agora system. Those exchanges will be integrated into the unified ledger. Your Bitcoin will be tokenized and controlled just like your dollars. But if you hold Bitcoin in a self-custody cold wallet, you have a digital asset that acts like physical gold. It is the only digital asset that can jump over the Agora fence. The West will try to ban the off-ramps, converting Bitcoin to dollars, but they cannot ban the network itself. It is the smuggler's route of the 21st century. It allows you to memorize 12 words and cross a border with your wealth intact. The closing of the gate. We are currently in the twilight period. The unit has launched. Project Agra is in the pilot phase. The gate is open, but it is closing. Right now, you can still withdraw cash. You can still buy gold. You can still move money across borders relatively freely. But every day, the friction increases. Have you noticed the KYC forms getting longer? Have you noticed the withdrawal limits getting smaller? Have you noticed how your bank asks, "What is this for?" when you try to move your own money? This is not an accident. This is the slow tightening of the net. The governments of the West have realized that they cannot pay their debts. They have realized that the only way to keep the game going is to imprison their creditors. And the creditor is you. You have a choice to make, and you don't have much time to make it. Do you stay comfortably inside the digital zone, enjoying the convenience of instant payments while sacrificing your privacy and your property rights? Do you trust the architects of the unified ledger to treat you fairly when the crisis hits? Or do you secure a foothold in the physical zone? Do you embrace the hassle of self-custody to preserve your freedom? Do you trade the convenience of the token for the security of the bar? History teaches us one lesson over and over again. When the state tries to control money, the money dies. The dollar is mutating into a control grid. The euro is following. The yen is next. The only way to win this game is not to play it. Build your position in real assets. Get your savings out of the bank. Become uncancelable. The digital cage is being built around you, but they haven't locked the door yet. You have the blueprint. You have the warning. Now the move is yours. This is HistoFund.